born in some of his life, so I'll read that. And speaking of letters, by the way, I'd wanted to be able to read everybody's letter. First time, yeah, I can do that. I can speak really fast. When all was said and done, we had 21 pages, single-spaced. I can't read that fast. Nobody can. So I had to condense a lot of things, but after the service is over, we will read. I'll try to read it as much little excerpts of that as I can, in maybe about a 15 to 20-minute space while everybody's getting food. From the depths of our hearts, we want to thank all of you who visited Doug or sent cards or flowers or called with words of sympathy, and those who have worked to make this memorial service possible. You're dear to us, and we love you. Well, many of you knew Doug mainly as a teacher. We as family will remember so much more about him. We'll recall his devotion to his role as husband to Joan, father to John, father-in-law to Sarah, and grandpa to Peter and Claudia, and as a son to Doug and Lily, brother to Dennis and Crick, and a son-in-law to Miss Mary. He was a devoted servant to brethren in congregations where he worked or spoke, and devoted friend to all who grew close to him. He was a helpful and cheerful neighbor to those who lived near us. Now, here's some things you may not know. Doug was born in Reading, Pennsylvania on June 6, 1945, and then his family moved to Fairlawn on June 6, 1947. At Fairlawn High School in New Jersey, he enjoyed chorus, football, and school plays, and studied tenor banjo with a man who performed with Mitch Miller and who recommended that he play professionally. But Doug didn't want to have that kind of lifestyle. Instead, a close friend of his, Joe Finney, suggested he go to Florida College near Tampa to prepare to be a band director or teacher of music theory or composition. On the ride from the train station to college, Joe asked him, "Oh, by the way, Doug, you wouldn't mind taking a Bible class every day, would you?" To which Dad replied, "Oh, I suppose it would do me some good to get some culture." Dad had no idea, by the way, that that was in store for him until after he'd already signed up and was on his way. In summers, he worked at nights at Tip Top Bakery in New Jersey, and after moving on to Florida State University and having married Joan, his education was interrupted by an invitation from Uncle Sam, a draft notice. And as a conscientious objector, he didn't believe it was right for him to kill, so he instead decided to heal, and spent over 2 years serving in the Army Medical Corps of Vietnam, while Joan continued teaching music at Florida College. Upon his return, they moved to Tallahassee for his graduate studies, and it was there that little Jonathan Douglas was born to the family. And Mom added, well, not so little. In high school at NFC, Doug had written short, humorous plays, and later during his graduate studies, he combined his talent with music by writing what he called his operina, or little opera. His concerto for tenor banjo and orchestra, for those who don't know classical music, that's weird. Okay? Banjo and orchestra is not normal. It was played at Florida State University School of Music. He also wrote beautiful, heartfelt hymns, too. He was called to be the banjoist for the Atlanta Symphony at a performance at FAMU in Tallahassee under the famous conductor Robert Shaw. At the end of the performance, he was surprised by Mr. Shaw's calling him forward to take a bow. Well, he was a master at both ragtime and bluegrass music, and he and Joan were honored to perform during a gala picnic at the Florida Governor's Mansion. For several years here in New Jersey, at the end of a week, his teaching Bible at Florida College summer camp, he and Joan entertained the campers with lively old-fashioned songs such as Bye Bye Blues and Has Anybody Seen My Gal, which even the young received enthusiastically, especially an excited toddler jumping up and yelling, "Grandpa." In music studies, he noticed musical forms that related to literary forms in the Bible. Doug had become agnostic as a teen, but he heard and studied the simple gospel of Florida College and was baptized into Christ early in his freshman year. In his Bible studies, he was impressed by how all the parts of the Bible worked together. The evidences that were presented. A teacher encouraged him to stay for a 4-year degree in Bible, but his heart was still set mostly on music. Yet, as an undergraduate at Florida State University, he rose early every morning to read through the New Testament once a month, and through the Old Testament 2 or 3 times a year. He taught Bible classes and sometimes preached at the West Side Church in Tallahassee and in nearby towns, and his interest and ability in teaching Bible grew. At various times while a graduate student, he also sold Amway products, worked part-time at a printing shop, as a tire salesman at Montgomery Ward's auto department, as a roofer, an installer of wind turbines, garage doors, and other home hardware products. Finally, as an installer of window treatments. A new congregation formed in nearby Wakulla, Florida, and he accepted the invitation to preach there while supporting himself as an installer. Later, he agreed to team preach with Carlton Bassett at Monticello, Florida, while still working a secular job. After some time, the church at Fairlawn invited him to conduct a meeting and then to move up and work with them. Joan's mother, born in the mountains of Virginia, had been living with them, and she moved to Yankee Country too. About 9 years later, Fairlawn members came to desire change, and Doug found that he was needed at the small church in Wharton, New Jersey. He has spoken at Bible lectures at Annandale, Virginia, Florida College, at the Centerville Church in Tallahassee, and at the Exton, Pennsylvania Study for Preachers. He also has held meetings in several states. After moving from Fairlawn, it was some time before Doug found a new doctor, and when he did, his aggressive prostate cancer was diagnosed, already very advanced, and he was given maybe 5 years to live. But he endured 12 years of numerous treatments, including surgery, weeks of daily radiation twice a week, hormone shots, immunotherapy, and clinical trials of new drugs. Over a year ago, he began to weaken and have what we called chemo brain. He had to work hard to organize his thoughts, and he walked with a shuffle. Through it all, his comment was SFSG, which means so far, so good. 2 weeks ago, barely able to move, he struggled to get dressed for worship. When one of the men helped him down the ramp to the building, his body gave way behind his walker, and it took the two men to lift him into a chair. Yet he still asked if we could have the Lord's Supper together, so we did, and even with a short lesson just outside the door. He wanted to go home, but was persuaded by the people there to go to the emergency room in Morristown. After some aggressive treatments, doctors said there was no more they could do, so Wednesday night, he was moved to the hospice floor and was given a morphine-like drug to relax his labored breathing. Dear friends dropped by to visit with prayers and singing before his spirit was set free Saturday at 5 p.m. Percy and Shirley Bramble, after a 3-hour drive from Maryland, were there at his passing. Percy had come to express thanks for Doug's advice and teaching, and they were such a great comfort to Joan. John and family arrived shortly and took Joan home with them, and she's staying with them for a short while. Doug drew inspiration to teach, not only from his Bible instructors at Florida College and countless dedicated preachers, but also from those of you who came to him eagerly asking questions after lessons and sermons. We remember only too sadly that this is what just a few out of a huge number of Jesus' disciples did after hearing his parables. Those few who truly wanted to understand him and learn, while many others said, "This is a difficult statement. Who can understand it?" and quit following him. If Doug could be here with us now, he would strongly urge all of us to read and reread about negative reactions to Jesus' teaching in John 6, verses 59 through 66, and Matthew 13, verses 10 through 13, as well as similar reactions to Paul's letters in 2 Peter 3, verses 14 through 18. And Dad would tell us, as the writer of Hebrews did, that while there must be milk for those who are newborn babes in Christ, there must also be meat that follows for our growth into perfection, or we will risk being unable to defend our faith, as 1 Peter 3:15 says, or even to the point of falling away, as Hebrews 6, verses 1 and 2 says. So let's keep diligently knocking and seeking and asking, so that, as Jesus promised, we shall find the door to his kingdom open for us. Again, we really do appreciate all of you for being here. I can't really say enough about that. I can't say enough about the speakers that have so graciously volunteered to share some thoughts. My idea was to have Buddy Payne, who was Dad's best friend at college, speak about what it is to be a friend, and Dad as a friend and a gardener, who did a lot of work with him at the Spanish congregation in this area for quite a while, and he was very instrumental in me coming up here. I thought it would be good for him to talk about him as a teacher, preacher. And being down at college without a dad around, I have to say, Buddy Payne was one of those dads for me. He was a father figure, and he was somebody that called me to the carpet when I didn't do what I should do, and told me like it was, and I needed that, and I appreciate it. So if you would please let him have your attention. After he is done with his talk, Eddie Jinks will lead us in the hymn, "In Heavenly Love Abiding," which should be on the page that you had on your seats.
Well, it's a special privilege to be here this evening. to speak about my dear friend. And I want you to know it's wonderful to see this many people out on a Monday night on relatively short notice. I know it means a great deal to Joan and the whole thing. So for them and for myself and the other speakers this evening, express our appreciation to you. This microphone seems to be going in and out, is that right?
Just turn it off.
Let me hold it up closer and see if that helps. Because I don't want you to miss any of these words. And I wrote this out so I wouldn't forget what I wanted to say. It was almost 56 years ago, the fall of 1963, when Doug Focht arrived on the campus of Florida College with his high school friend Joe Finney. We were all enrolling as freshmen with many hopes and fears and unknowns before us. Doug came with more unknowns than most because he knew little about Florida College. You already heard that. And he had a background in a different church than the group that most of us came from. And so he came with lots of unknowns. He would make many adjustments over those 2 years, and the depth of our friendship grew with each experience that we shared. So I want to start my comments this evening with what Doug wrote in my yearbook at the end of our second year at Florida College. He wrote it on the page that was dedicated to his award as the Outstanding Music Student of the Year. Which seems fitting, don't you think? So I'm going to quote what he said in my yearbook. And I do that for this reason. There's a number of points I want to make that tie to that. Buddy, old pal, it would take a Shakespearean, Barrett, Browning, Chaucer, neither of which I am whom, to write anything applicable here. Your friendship has meant more to me than even could be expressed on 88 keys, not to mention 1,000 strings and 45 woodwinds and brass. It's over! Exclamation point. And yet it's just begun. The seeds have been sown and watered, and now comes the increase. Yet, though I hardly knew you at the time when the seeds were being sown in me, far be it to say that you had little to do with watering and cultivating them. For your part was great, and I thank you for it. No more. Anything more said now would be out of place. I'll let you fill in the blanks. What you would say to me, so I would to you. Best of luck to you in Maryland. In Christ, I salute you. Doug. It meant a lot to me to read that again, just this last week. So I do want to fill in some of those blanks for some of you who are not privileged as I was to know and love this man as one of my dearest friends on earth. Yes, it was over in the spring of 1965. Those wonderful days of sharing in the delightful experiences of being students at Florida College and a part of the FC family. I want to share a few of those with you today. But it was also just the beginning, as he said. The beginning of many other experiences together, and for him, a lifetime of service to the great God that Doug had come to know through Jesus Christ our Lord. He was the best man at my wedding, but I told him over and over again he really wasn't. And I was privileged to be in their wedding as well. And our paths crossed often in the last 4 years. So here we are today celebrating another ending, which is also just a new beginning. I want to read you a passage that fits so well here. For we know that if our house, this tent is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with our habitation which is from heaven. If indeed, having been clothed, we shall not be found naked. For we who are in this tent groan, being burdened, not because we want to be unclothed, but further clothed, that mortality may be swallowed up in life. Now, he who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who has also given us the Spirit as a guarantee. Therefore, we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in the body, we're absent from the Lord. For we walk by faith, and not by sight. We are confident, yes, well pleased, rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. Therefore, we make it our aim, whether present or absent, to be well-pleasing to Him. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body according to what he has done, whether good or evil. We all know that Doug struggled mightily with the frailties of his mortal body over the last many years. But he never wavered in his confidence that while we are at home in the body, we're absent from the Lord. And by faith, he was well pleased rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. By faith, my beloved friends, I can see him, like Lazarus in Luke 16, carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom, awaiting the resurrection of the righteous. You see, beloved, Doug had learned that we should all embrace that the God who sentenced man to death because of sin did not intend for physical death to be the end of the story. He made man mortal, and he became man, taking on himself the penalty for our sin. But he also demonstrated by raising Jesus from the dead that man is not only mortal. Physical death is not the end of the story. God intended to use death in his demonstration of triumph over Satan by making the end of life on this earth the beginning of something better, something endless, of which Doug is beginning to participate already. Now let me fill in some of the blanks from Florida college days. One of my earliest memories of Doug was when we had a spontaneous hymn singing in the lobby at Sutton Hall in the opening week of school. Doug joined us for that singing. Thinking he could be of great service to us in our singing, he brought his banjo to help us. As you can imagine, Joe and I took him aside and taught him the way of the Lord more perfectly. He did come to understand eventually that singing spiritual songs should be a cappella. But I can assure you that Doug and his banjo became a mainstay on our campus for many other events and performances. Doug's natural ability to see the lighter side of life was legendary. He could have us all laughing in no time with a turn of praise or just plain silliness. And by the way, my Marilyn wanted to be here so badly tonight. She just wasn't up to the journey right now. But she said, be sure and tell Joan and all the others that Doug could make her laugh faster and harder than anybody ever has in our entire lives. He was a master at double talk. Often between banjo songs, Doug would come up with some clinky Smothers Brothers monologue that included a threat to the audience of Fisch, Schmied, Schlappen if they did something or did not do something. This threat was one of several unorthodox terms that were hurled at the audience for the laughs of it, and he gave the audience to believe that they would want nothing to do with this Fisch, Schmied, Schlappen, whatever that is. One of our sweetest memories was the trip we were privileged to make representing the college in May and June of 1964. The Clef Dwellers, the barbershop quartet consisting of Jay Geyer, Howard Whittlesey, Joe Finney, and myself, were joined by Doug Focht and our chaperone, choral director Duty James Walker, on a 7,000-mile journey in a Volkswagen bus. Over a period of 42 days, we did 1 to 3 performances every single day in 38 different locations all over the eastern part of the United States. There may be some in this audience who heard some of that. All of us would testify, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Joe and Howard and Jay, as well as myself, Joan. It's not just me. We would all testify that that journey, by the way, when you're that close to somebody that long, you get to know folks pretty well. Doug made that experience unique and memorable in a way that no one else could have. And I will say to you, that first journey that Florida College sent out in May and June led to many friends' summer camp trips, which have become a tradition now at Florida College. He wrote an entire play in double talk. And the KO Society at Florida College performed it as a skit in chapel. I want to give you a little piece of the dialogue, just so you get an idea of what I mean by double talk. And Doug was a master to say a whole bunch of words when he said nothing. So here we go. You ready? This is Doug and me playing off of each other in this play. So here we go. I'm a kittle to think you a little bit blind, but there's not a spot in my logic. Find if you took a look by a hook or a crook, you still wouldn't thrill what I write in my book. It's people like you and the sheeple, I say, who mock it and sock it and throw it away. To say such is silly. Indeed it may be, but Sandy and Billy both told it to me. To you, to me, no, ah, you see, no? Ah, but you must, or you're up in a tree. You got all that, right? And on it went in nonsense rhyme till it drew the grand conclusion that it was better to have Bartle than to drive to Androin. Profound. He also wrote a piece where he sat in my lap as the puppet and I was the ventriloquist. You remember that one, Joan? Ridiculous. The dialogue consisted of some hilarious one-liners, which concluded with his carrying me off the stage as the storyline twisted to show the audience that he was really the ventriloquist and I was the puppet. That's Doug. But lest you think that Doug was nothing but silliness, I hasten to add that he was an accomplished musician, an expert performer on the concert banjo, and quite a good pianist as well. He and I had many opportunities to make beautiful music together, whether it was improvising banjo piano numbers or playing Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue on 2 pianos. It was wonderful. He also completed the required 65 hours for his AA degree from Florida College. I just want you to know he didn't go down there and mess around. 3 of the 4 semesters he was on the honor roll, he took 16 hours of music theory, which is the calculus of music. and 18 hours in biblical studies, which he had no intention of doing when he came, right? But he took them and did well. And I must say that the study he started there, intense study of Scripture, became the passion of his life. Because he was truly converted. He then transferred to the prestigious music program at Florida State University, where he completed the coursework toward a PhD degree and wrote an original concerto, as you've been told, for concert, banjo, and orchestra, and was privileged to perform it with the FSU Orchestra. And I have as my closing statement to that paragraph, unorthodox to the end. I doubt there'll ever be anybody that performs concert, banjo, and orchestra concerto again. As freshmen, Doug and I were both students in music theory, taught by a new music piano professor named Joan Norvell, who had just graduated from Rollins College. Joan, I did a little looking, because I was your student then. Now I get to look at your record. She was quite a good student, by the way, at Rollins College. But she had only gotten her bachelor's degree by that point in time. You're supposed to have a master's degree. And of course, she immediately started working on her master's while she was teaching. But when Doug and I had her, we didn't know it, but she was a bachelor's degree student at that point. But she was a superb teacher. And Doug and I were pretty good students. Wouldn't you say, Joan? Especially Doug. But Miss Norvell had to put up with a good deal of silliness in that class as well. One of Doug's favorite tricks was to wait for a critical moment in Miss Norvell's lecture, and with some fanfare, reach over and yank on my tie. I wore a tie all the time in those days, so what else is new, right? In those days, I wore clip-ons. So he'd reach over and go, and that tie would go right in the middle of Joan's lecture. Well, that and a bunch of other silliness. And in spite of that, clearly Doug made enough of a positive impression on Miss Norvell that later their relationship blossomed into a love affair that led to their marriage in 1967 and 52 years of wedded bliss. He's one of the few students at Florida College who married his teacher. And it's been a big success. As you've been told, Doug and Joan, after they married, ended up living in Tallahassee for a number of years. They had a profound effect in the Lord's kingdom in northern Florida.